Hello viewers, in today's session we are going to discuss about self-help groups. India has one of the largest number of commercial bank branches when compared to the whole of world. It has 38% of branches in urban areas, 28% branches in the semi-urban areas and remaining branches are in the rural areas. In spite of such a massive network of bank branches, the poor in the Indian villages are still out of the reach of financial system. There is excessive thrust on agricultural finance, whereas in villages not everybody is a farmer. There are a lot of landless laborers, artisans who are outside the reach of formal financial system. Another problem associated here is the perception that poor are uncreditworthy and non-bankable, though there are a number of studies which prove otherwise. The Barnes Institute of London conducted a study in 11 countries including India, which says that poor can be creditworthy, poor can be bankable if loans are given to enterprising people in small amounts and through microfinance institutions. In fact, the Coolie Fund that was started by the landless laborers of Kolar district of Karnataka in association with an NGO, ADATS, proves the same fact. These people came out of the clutches of greedy moneylenders and bonded laborers by taking up activities that help them provide employment for themselves and their fellow workers. When we look at the Indian rural financial system, it can be divided into two segments, the formal segment and the informal segment. The formal or the official segment consists of cooperative banks, scheduled commercial banks and regional rural banks, whereas the rural sector, for the rural sector, NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, that is the apex institution for providing rural finance in India. When it comes to cooperative banks consist of three-layer structure. At the village level, they have primary agricultural credit societies. At the district level, they have DCCBs, that is the district credit cooperative banks, and at the state level, they have state cooperative banks. Commercial banks operate through a large network of branches, and these commercial banks in turn set up regional rural banks in association with the central and respective state governments. Now coming to self-help groups. Before understanding what self-help groups are, we need to look at why are self-help groups important. We discussed about availability of a lot of bank branches, but still they are not being accessible to the poor. That is, there are funds available, but these funds are not reaching the poor. There are banking systems available, but poor are not able to access these banking systems. So, self-help groups, in this context, self-help groups act as a delivery of microfinance in India. Self-help groups can act as a vehicle for bringing poor from the clutches of poverty and from the clutches of the greedy money lenders. So, what are these self-help groups? We have already discussed about microfinance in the previous unit. You have seen what microfinance is, you have seen the need and importance for microfinance and the evolution of microfinance in India. In this unit, we will try to understand as to what self-help groups are, what is the need for self-help group and how does a self-help group operate in India. Right. So, what are self-help groups? Self-help groups are informal associations of people who come together to find ways to improve their living conditions. These people are usually from similar socio-economic backgrounds and they share similar problems or concerns in life. One of the primary objectives of these self-help groups is financial security. But apart from that, self-help group also aims at training of their members, education, awareness, leadership development and social development of its members. Over 80% of members of self-help group are women. In fact, the self-help group mechanism is so designed that it encourages more and more women to be members of self-help group. And the reason behind it is that it is found out that women are the ones who are more in need of funds. They are the ones who can actually inculcate more savings in the family, and they are the ones who are more responsible when it comes to repayments. So, that is why Indian self-help group movement is focusing more on women rather than on men. Now, villagers in India face numerous problems like illiteracy, lack of skills, lack of formal credit, etc. Now, these individuals cannot solve all these problems at an individual level. They need people around them, they need only collective effort. Now, poor households mostly depend on informal sector for their loans or any of their monetary requirements. And the reason behind it is that they do not have any collateral, they do not have any documents to furnish in banks for taking loans. And even when they have, they are illiterate, they are uneducated, they cannot read the documents that the banks give them, they cannot before signing the documents, they cannot read all those documents. So, they feel it is better we go to a local money lender whom I know personally. But what these money lenders do is they exploit them, they charge exorbitant rates of interest. Therefore, self-help group can become a vehicle of change for the poor and the marginalized sections of the society. Self-help group relies on the notion of self-help to encourage self-employment and poverty alleviation. Now, coming to the characteristics of a self-help group, let us look at the various characteristics of self-help groups. The first characteristic is size. Most of the self-help groups in India, if we look at the minimum number of members in a self-help group could be 5 and the maximum could be 20. There are no self-help groups which are more than this. In fact, you have federated self-help groups which are in the form of clusters and apex bodies. There the number of members are more, but a basic self-help group does not have more than 20 members in it. And the reason is, it enables, when the number is restricted, it enables people to have a one-to-one and a personal contact with each other. The next one is meetings. The next characteristic of a self-help group is meetings. Members of a self-help group meet at regular intervals. These meetings are very informal in nature. They could happen in the backyard of some member's house, they could just happen under the tree somewhere, and all the discussions happen during these meetings. Whatever money people have to deposit, they deposit. If somebody needs a loan, they make request during that time, and whatever is the procedure to be followed, and people who have to make repayments for the previous loans that they have taken, even that happens during those meetings. So, these meetings are very essential part of a self-help group. The third characteristic feature of a self-help group is it promotes small savings. It has been generally noticed that in rural India, the propensity to consume is much higher than the propensity to save, and the reason behind it is very obvious. Poor villagers earn very little, which is hardly sufficient for them to meet their basic requirements, and with great difficulty, even if they try to save something, that amount is very nominal. So, these people feel that this is a very nominal amount and it might not make a huge difference. Assume I manage to save 50 rupees in a day. To which bank do I go and deposit these 50 rupees? Will a bank take 50 rupees as deposit? And the bank could be situated very far from where I stay. So, all these things discourage these farmers or these rural people from even saving those little amounts that they manage to. But whereas self-help group, there is no minimum amount of savings as such, and most other people are also from the same socio-economic background. So, it does not make a difference if I save even 10 rupees a day or 50 rupees a day also. So, therefore, self-help groups encourage people to save, even though those savings could be very nominal when you compare that with others. The next characteristic feature of a self-help group is it provides collateral free loans. That is, villagers do not have to provide any guarantee, they do not have to attach any of their property as collateral. And what is the guarantee here is the mutual trust among the members, the peer pressure among the members acts as a collateral. Usually what happens in a self-help group is, unless and until one member repays the loan, the others would not be able to borrow. And since they all personally know one another, they could all be neighbors, they could all be working in the same locality, in the same community. So, people would not default. So, that peer pressure acts as a collateral and they need not provide any other separate property or document or any such thing as their collateral. The next characteristic, and a very important characteristic of a self-help group, is conflict resolution through collective leadership and mutual discussion. Whatever decisions that take place in a self-help group are taken through mutual discussions, they are taken through unanimous decisions. All members, irrespective of their worth, irrespective of their contributions, irrespective of their savings, are treated equally in a self-help group. So, everybody gets a chance to voice their opinion. So, therefore, if there are any conflicts, all these members sit together and decide. The next characteristic feature of a self-help group is only one person per household is allowed to become a member for a self-help group. Now, there are two reasons behind this. When we restrict one person per household, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to maximize the reach of these self-help groups. That is, when we have 20 members and we are saying that only one member can be from a family, we are making sure that 20 households are benefiting from this self-help group. So, that is one reason why the number is restricted. And the second reason why we restrict the number of members is, assume there are 3 members from a family or 4 members from the same family. There could be chances of partiality, there could be chances of domination, there could be chances of favoritism. So, these are the 2 reasons why members are restricted. There can be only one person from each household. The next characteristic feature of a self-help group is, most of the self-help groups in India are gender based. That is, they are either all women groups or all men groups, though most of them are all women. Mixed self-help groups have not been very popular in India. And coming to the last characteristic feature of a self-help group, most of the members of self-help group are from the similar socio-economic background. The main advantage with this is, when people come from similar background, they understand each other's problems, they can openly share their problems in front of others. They would not hesitate. In fact, when it comes to sharing their problems, they might not hesitate, because they know all the others are also sailing in the same boat, all the others are also facing the same kind of problems. So, these are some of the characteristic features of self-help groups. Now, let us look at the origin of a self-help group. Self-help groups in India emerged in the early 1980s, but they have their roots in Bangladesh. In 1970s, Professor Muhammad Yunus, a social entrepreneur, helped some women by providing them capital. He helped a few underprivileged women by providing them capital. He provided them interest-free loans. And this initiative proved to be very successful, and a lot of other Asian countries adopted this system. In India, the Government of India launched its first self-help group program in the year 1987 through an NGO. It was Mysore Resettlement and Development Agency. Today, India has millions of self-help groups. With the success that it faced with helping MyRada, Government of India set up lot of other self-help groups. Even before all these things, there was an institution called SEWA, Self-Employed Women's Association, that was started by Ela Bhatt in Ahmedabad. What she did is, she gathered women who are of limited resources, who could be potters, weavers, workers in the unorganized sector, and she trained them to be self-developed. Now, let us look at the history of self-help groups. When we look at history of self-help groups, it can be divided in 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 period ranges from the year 1987 to 1992. During this period, NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, was the main agency for helping out self-help groups. NABARD undertook various measures to assist MyRada through a grant of 1 million rupees in the year 1987. It also helped other NGOs, and they supporting self-help groups. In the year 1992, RBI accepted the self-help group model as an alternative credit option. This is when phase 2 began. In the second phase, the linkage of self-help groups with banks was done. NABARD along with RBI supported lot of self-help groups to have a savings account. This action gave a considerable boost to the self-help group movement in India. In 1999, Government of India introduced Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, the world's largest poverty alleviation program. This program proved successful, and in the year 2011, Government of India introduced a few more features and changed the scheme as the National Rural Livelihood Mission. Today, we also have state rural livelihood missions which are active in 29 states and 5 union territories. NRLM facilitated universal access to affordable, cost-effective and reliable financial services to the poor. Now, let us look at how a typical self-help group works. Like we already discussed, self-help groups usually consist anywhere between 5 to 20 members, and most of these participants are women who share similar socio-economic backgrounds. So, these members meet at regular intervals. Whatever deposits that they have to make, those routine nominal amounts of deposits, they make it into the joint savings account. As these savings accumulate over a period of time, members are allowed to take loans from them. There is an accountant or a bookkeeper who is also known as a village organization assistant, who maintains the deposit records, who maintains a record of how much money has been contributed by each person on which day. So, he does all that thing. And once these self-help groups achieve a sizable pool of common capital, they then become eligible to borrow from banks under the NABARD's Self-Help Group Bank Linkage Program. Self-help groups in India represent a 3-tier structure. Tier 1 represents self-help groups, Tier 2 represents village organizations, whereas Tier 3 represents Mandal Samakhyas, and Tier 4 represents Zilla Samakhyas. Now, let us look at the importance of and need of self-help group. One of the main reasons for rural poverty in our country is low access to credit and financial services. There was a committee that was constituted under the chairmanship of Dr. C. Rangarajan to prepare a very comprehensive report on financial inclusion in the country. This report identified 4 main reasons for lack of financial inclusion in Indian villages. First reason was inability to provide collateral. The second reason was poor credit absorption capacity. Third reason was inadequate reach of the institutions, and the fourth reason was weak community network. Now, the existence of sound community network in villages is one of the main reasons that these self-help groups proved important. Self-help groups help in accessing credit to the poor, and thus they play a central role in poverty alleviation. They also help to build social capital among the women, especially women are targeted because women are considered to be more contributing towards their family rather than men. And financial interdependence through self-employment has many positive consequences, which has improved efficiency levels, literacy levels and health levels among the rural poor. Now, let us look at the functions of self-help groups. As we have already discussed, self-help groups encourage members to save. These savings though could be of very nominal amounts, but still they encourage their members to save. And how often these members can save and deposit differs from self-help groups to self-help groups. There could be a certain self-help group which might say that a member can deposit amounts, money or savings every day, or there could be a self-help group which might decide that we will collect money every alternate day or once in a week. It depends on how the income pattern, the earning pattern, the way in which cash flows to those particular members. So, it is a very flexible system. Imagine a regular bank. Can I go and deposit money in a bank every day? I cannot do that, whereas a self-help group gives that facility, and there is no minimum amount. If I save 50 rupees a day, I cannot go to a bank and deposit those 50 rupees, whereas that can be done in a self-help group. And the next function of a self-help group is internal lending. That is, whenever I need money, I need not approach any outsider. I can just go to my self-help group, I can ask my members of the self-help group and borrow money from the collective pool that belongs to everybody. So, this brings in an amount of self-reliance. There is no scope that people could be exploited by outsiders. The third feature of a self-help group is there is collective guarantee system. That is, each and every individual is responsible for a loan taken by one person. Out of 10 members, one person has taken loan, but all the other 9 members are also collectively responsible for this. All the other 9 members also have to make sure the payments happen in time. This is a fundamental aspect of a self-help group. That is the only reason self-help groups are working in India in spite of not having any collateral mechanism. In fact, the repayment of a self-help group is 95%, which is much more than any of the commercial banks that we see in India. Commercial banks have very high NPAs, they have very high non-performing assets, whereas you do not find such thing in self-help groups, and the only reason behind it is there is collective guarantee system. And the last function of a self-help group is it builds the functional capacity of the poor. So, a self-help group does not restrict itself only in accepting money and lending money, it extends its scope beyond that. So, it tries to increase the awareness levels of people. If there are members who want vocational education, they might not be able to approach somebody on their own, but a group of people can join together, approach an institution and may take vocational coaching from them, or they might travel to the nearest town or nearest city as a group and take vocational coaching. All these things might not be possible as an individual for those people living in villages who are illiterate, who have no awareness. Next, coming to the objectives of a self-help group. We can study objectives of self-help groups both from an economic perspective and social perspective, and both of them are equally important. First, coming to economic objectives, it promotes savings, it teaches them financial management skills, it teaches them how to manage their money, it teaches them how to be independent and not get exploited at the hands of money lenders. Financial prudence is what a self-help group primarily aims to teach its members. The next important economic objective of a self-help group is it tries to achieve uninterrupted access to savings, credit services, that is whenever people want to save, however much money they want to save, they should be given that facility to do so, and credit services also, whenever their members are in need of money, there is a genuine need of money, they should be given the opportunity to avail that loan. It also tries to achieve standard of living, that is people should be able to afford a decent house to live in. People should be able to educate their children, all those things, a better standard of living is possible through self-help groups. And improving economic self-reliance, which is again similar to your access to credit services, that is you are borrowing money, your own money, that is the common money, you are not depending on any outsider. And the last objective is to organize training for skill development. So, villagers have lot of latent potential, but this potential does not come out because they are not trained, they are not honed. So, once these people are given the required skills to be trained, it is they flourish, they prosper in their lives. Now, coming to the social objectives, these social objectives are also no less important. In fact, self-help groups lay equal emphasis on economic as well as social objectives, because overall development of a community cannot take place only through economic development. There has to be social upliftment along with economic development, only then a society develops. So, what are these social objectives? The first one is it encourages community coherence. People start realizing the importance of the community, people start realizing that when they all come together, it is quite easy to solve their problems. Instead of sitting and cursing their fate, instead of sitting and complaining about lack of opportunities, they all can come together, develop opportunities for themselves. There are a lot of initiatives that are given by governments of India from time to time, but the problem is that these villagers are unaware of these initiatives. But when they come together, they can access all these various initiatives. The next objective is self-help groups creates a forum for sharing of ideas and knowledge. People meet, people come together, they share, they discuss, they clarify their doubts, and one person could have some new knowledge which he could be sharing with everybody else. So, all these things are possible only when members meet at regular intervals, which is facilitated through a self-help group. Then if there are any members in difficulty, self-help groups also helps them. It could be economic difficulty or it could be other some kind of personal or informal family related difficulty. Self-help group members also pitch in, they also help their members. So, a self-help group acts as a big support structure for an individual, even for economic issues also and non-economic issues also. The next objective is it helps the community in identifying and resolving their own problems. Like I told you, it teaches self-reliance. Whatever resources we have, whatever we will try to make the best use of it. That is what a self-help group does. Next one is it teaches members utilization of local resources. We see this trend in lot of villages in India. The youth in villages migrate to the towns, they migrate to cities because of lack of livelihood in their own areas. This leads to a lot of other problems. Whereas self-help group says you need not relocate, you need not go away, wherever you are, you stay there, there would be resources available there, and try to bring out the best of those resources. So, that is what a self-help group, and then it creates awareness amongst the members about their own rights. So, it creates awareness, it tells them that government of India is there, lot of other NGOs are there, lot of other philanthropic organizations are there, they are all there to help us. Now, coming to the advantages that we would see in a self-help group. Self-help groups offers a number of advantages, not just to its members, but to the bankers and to the society as a whole. So, the first and the foremost advantage which we have been discussing so far, members get access to formal credit institutions which they earlier were deprived of. Once a self-help group becomes established, members can also approach a bank. That is, instead of one member approaching a bank, the entire self-help group goes and approaches the bank. So, earlier what was not possible as an individual now is possible because they are a part of a group. So, that is the biggest advantage for these rural villages. Next, coming to increasing general awareness. Earlier the government schemes, the banking rules and regulations which they were not aware of earlier, they are aware of those schemes. Next advantage is these self-help groups provide a platform for exchange of ideas. Members would get to know more about ideas that others have, what is happening in other villages, what is happening in other self-help groups, how are they improving their lives, all these things can be known. Then the final advantage that we can talk about is self-help groups enhance the social status of members. They become self-dependent, say in fact they become role models for others. When a particular self-help group becomes successful, it encourages other villages also to form groups of their own. So, these members become role models for others. So, these are the advantages that self-help groups offers to members. Now, coming to bankers, it is not just that a self-help group is beneficial to its own members, even bankers gain from this, and the first and the foremost benefit is timely payment. Bankers are assured of timely payment. Like I told you earlier, repayment rate in self-help group is 95%, which you would not see in any other commercial banking operations. So, once a bank lends money to a self-help group, it can be rest assured that it would get back its money. The chances of default are very, very less. And the next advantage is the transaction costs come down drastically. So, a 20-member self-help group maintains a single account in a bank. So, instead of these 20 members maintaining an account with the bank is only servicing one account instead of servicing 20 accounts. So, therefore, transaction costs of a bank are reduced and its reach is increased. Now, it is accessible to 20 members. Similarly, the deposit base increases. If the self-help group did not have an account with the bank, these 50 rupees or 100 rupees that they would save in a week or a day, they would be, even the bank would be deprived of these deposits. So, self-help group is not just beneficial to the individual member, it is also beneficial to the banker. Coming to the advantages of the society. Now, this is the biggest advantage of a self-help group. Lot of improvements, lot of positive consequences are seen in the society because of a self-help group, and the first biggest advantage is gender equity. Once women become members of self-help groups, they become reliant, they have access to money, they come to leadership positions, and later when it comes to their family also, they become equal partners. So, this is the biggest advantage that a self-help group is doing to the society, to the women in particular. Self-help groups also is resulting in changes in the consumption pattern. When members are becoming more self-reliant, they are spending more money on their children's education, they are spending more money on nutritious food, on their own health, which is a big advantage to the society as a whole. There is also impact on housing and health. People are able to afford decent houses for themselves, pakka houses for themselves, which earlier was not possible. So, you see that the lifestyles of villagers is being changed because of a self-help groups. Social justice, coming to social justice. Now, most of the beneficiaries of these government schemes are from the weak and the marginalized communities of the society, and hence their participation in self-help groups enjoys social justice. In fact, self-help groups also try to combat social evils like dowry, alcoholism, abuse of women. All these things can be faced. And then last one, the biggest advantage to the society of a self-help group is it reduces dependence on agriculture. People look for alternative sources. People are encouraged to start up small handicrafts. They are encouraged to start small stores. They need not wait for a job. They themselves are becoming entrepreneurs. They are themselves coming to a position where they can offer jobs. They do not have to leave their villages and go elsewhere. So, these are some of the advantages that self-help groups offers to the society.